Start now. Welcome, everybody. We start this conference about plant reproductive material, about the new legislation that is about to be negotiated between the three institutions, the European Parliament, the Commission, and the Council. And we have all three institutions here. It's going to be an interesting exchange with practitioners. I will first of all give the floor to Martin Häusling to greet you as as shadow rapporteur on the report of Mr. Dorfmann. Mr. Dorfmann hasn't yet appeared, but we will start the program anyway and include him as rapporteur once he has arrived. So I would give the floor first to Martin Häusling to greet this assembly.
As we have translation into German and English, if you need translation, I want to speak in German. Ja, herzlichen Dank für Ihr Kommen. Auch herzlichen Dank für die wunderbare Präsentation hier vorne. Man sitzt ja immer in diesen nüchternen Sälen, aber das, was hier vorne aufgebaut ist, zeigt auch ganz klar unser Motto: Vielfalt in allen Bereichen, vom Brot angefangen über Obstsorten, Getreide, alles ist da. Und darum geht es auch, die Vielfalt bewahren. Wir sind jetzt in den Trilog gestartet für das neue Saatgutrecht. Und ich glaube nicht zur Überraschung vieler, dass wir in vielen Positionen genau dieselbe Konstellation haben wie vor 10 Jahren. Vor 10 Jahren haben wir beide nämlich auch zusammengesessen bei der letzten Saatgutverordnung, und das Parlament hat die gesamte Vorlage der Kommission zurückgeschickt, weil wir damals gesagt haben, die Vielfaltsorten, der Ökobereich, die Haltungssorten haben viel zu wenig Berücksichtigung gefunden in dem Kommissionsvorschlag. Jetzt haben wir fast eine ähnliche Konstellation. Das Parlament ist in seinem Entwurf relativ offen und will wenig Barrieren hinlegen für die Haltungssorten, für die Vielfaltsorten, für den Ökolandbau. Der Rat hat leider wieder eine Position eingenommen, zusammen mit der Kommission, die sehr restriktiv ist in vielen Bereichen, die wieder vieles sehr streng regeln will, was, glaube ich, für den Sektor der vielen Vielfaltszüchter, der vielen, die sich engagieren, alte Sorten zu halten, wirklich so viel Knüppel in den Weg legt, ich sage mal sehr, sehr deutsch, dass wir das Problem haben, dass einige vom Markt sich damit nicht durchsetzen können. Insofern hoffe ich, und Herbert Dorfmann ist auch gerade gekommen, unser Berichterstatter, dass wir gemeinsam die Position des Europäischen Parlaments verteidigen können, ganz klar an die Kommission und an den Rat das Signal senden: Wir wollen Vielfalt erhalten, wir wollen nicht die Interessen der Saatgutindustrie in den Vordergrund stellen, sondern der vielen, die sich engagieren für eine sehr vielfältige Zucht. Und das wollen wir heute darlegen. Wir haben ein sehr volles Programm, deshalb möchte ich nicht zu lange reden. Und wenn Herbert Dorfmann hier vorne hinkommt, dann kann er genau die Punkte erläutern, wo wir uns zwischen Parlament und Rat und Kommission unterscheiden. Und ich kann auch sagen, wir haben bis jetzt eine sehr gute Zusammenarbeit. Das Parlamentsteam ist sich in vielen Themen, in vielen Punkten einig, und ich denke, wir werden das schon gut hinbekommen. Vielen Dank.
Thank you, Martin Häusling, and welcome, Mr. Dorfmann. I will just shortly give you an overview of what we're trying to do today. We want to listen, of course, first of all, to the rapporteur on this very important legislative proposal. We are about to enter into trilogue, so there has been already a lot of negotiation and preparation. But it is a very important moment in which we can still exchange, especially also with people who are doing work on seeds, who are doing breeding, who are doing conservation, who are engaged in many ways. So we will have a part, this first part, where we will have an explanation of the position of the Parliament by the rapporteur, and an explanation of the position, the common position, which was reached in the Council. And then we will enter in the second part, and the second part will be listening to practitioners who have done the effort to analyze what is in this proposal, what is in the different positions, and who have clearly stated different propositions from the point of practitioners. So that's the second part. And the third part will be a panel discussion between those who will be negotiating in the trilogue. And that will be very interesting because we will hear what they have understood from what practitioners have said to the proposal. And the fun part is already being prepared here in front of me, and that is the end of this meeting, and that is tasting the diversity we are discussing about. So we will be seeing all the different products that you can make from the high diversity of seeds we are discussing, and we will perhaps then have a moment of exchange which is informal. So first of all, I would now like to welcome Mr. Dorfmann, and as rapporteur, I would like to give you the floor to explain the position of the Parliament with which you will be going into the trilogue. Mr. Dorfmann, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. As Martin spoke in German, and I understand we have interpretation, so I will do the same. I will speak in my mother tongue in German. So, herzlichen Dank für die Einladung zu einem Zeitpunkt. Es geht ja nicht darum, wie ich in den Trilog gehe, sondern mich in den Trilog verhalte, weil der Trilog hat ja schon begonnen vor einigen Wochen, und wir sind eigentlich jetzt mittendrin in dem technischen Detail, dem technischen Aussprachen, aber dazu werde ich nachher ein paar Worte noch sagen. Ich möchte Folgendes sagen, Martin und ich, wir sind ja eine ganze Weile schon in diesem Haus und wir haben auch schon den Schiffbruch des ersten Versuchs dieser Verordnung erlebt. Das heißt, es hat ja bereits im Jahr 2013 einen Versuch der Kommission gegeben, diesen gesamten Bereich des Saatgutrechts, oder eigentlich müsste man richtigerweise sagen, des Rechts über pflanzliches und forstliches Reproduktionsmaterial neu zu ordnen und die vielen Verordnungen und Richtlinien, die heute in diesem Bereich gültig sind, zu 2 Verordnungen zusammenzufassen. Eine über das forstliche Reproduktionsmaterial und eine über das pflanzliche Reproduktionsmaterial. Der Vorschlag von damals ist einer der ganz wenigen Vorschläge der Kommission, die ich mich in meiner doch nicht mehr ganz so kurzen Zeit hier im Parlament erinnern kann, der an die Wand gefahren ist. Das heißt, der im Parlament gescheitert ist, und zwar genau an dem Thema, über das wir heute hier reden, das heißt über Vereinfachungen und Ausnahmen für Züchter, die sich um Biodiversität kümmern, die sich um dynamische Biodiversität kümmern und so weiter. Ich glaube, also bei der Vorlage des Vorschlags war das, diese Situation von damals für die Kommission auch ein bisschen eine Lehre, weil wir deutlich besser gestartet sind als vor 10 Jahren. Das heißt, der Vorschlag der Kommission sieht bereits eine ganze Reihe von Ausnahmen und Regelungen vor, um diesen ganz besonderen Bereich zu regeln. Ich hatte die Ehre und habe immer noch die Ehre, Berichterstatter für beide Dossiers zu sein, also pflanzliches und forstliches Reproduktionsmaterial. Wir haben im Europäischen Parlament in der letzten Plenarsitzung des alten Parlaments, also des im Jahr 2024 ausgelaufenen Parlaments, im April 2024, die Parlamentsposition abgestimmt, und das hat dann doch eine ganze Weile gedauert, bis der Rat eine eigene Position dazu entwickelt hat. Aber wir sind jetzt, würde ich mal sagen, in der entscheidenden finalen Phase. Wir haben die erste Verordnung über das forstliche Reproduktionsmaterial abgeschlossen, einen Trilogergebnis gefunden und auch inzwischen diesem Trilogergebnis zugestimmt. Also der erste Teil ist abgeräumt, und beim zweiten Teil bin ich eigentlich sehr guter Dinge, aber da werden uns nachher die Vertreter des Rates sagen, aber ich bin guter Dinge, dass wir im ersten Halbjahr 2026, also unserer zypriotischer Ratspräsidentschaft, das Dossier schließen können und damit zu einer Einigung kommen können. Ich darf vielleicht kurz einige Punkte vorstellen, wo sich die politisch sensibel sind, und möchte dann schon auf den Teil kommen, der Sie vor allem interessiert, also die ganze Frage der Biodiversität und Umgang damit. Ich würde sagen, ich möchte vorher ganz kurz 2 Themen ansprechen, die uns trennen in unserer Meinung. Das ist einmal die Frage der sogenannten VCSU-Tests. Also es sind offizielle Tests, die Mitgliedstaaten machen, um Nachhaltigkeit von pflanzlichen Reproduktionsmaterial, Samen und Saatgut und pflanzliches Reproduktionsmaterial festzustellen. Die Kommission hat vorgeschlagen, dass dieser Test zukünftig für alle neuen Sorten gemacht werden muss. Das heißt, wenn eine Sorte beim Sortenamt angemeldet wird, dass dieser Test dann vorher gemacht werden muss. Bereits im Parlament haben wir gesagt, eigentlich nicht für alle Pflanzen, sondern nur für Ackerfrüchte, Kartoffeln, Wein und Rasensamen. Hingegen sollen diese Tests fakultativ bleiben und fakultativ sein für Fruit and Vegetables, also für Obst und Gemüse. Der Rat ist weit weniger ambitioniert und möchte die derzeitige Situation aufrechterhalten, also das Ganze de facto nur für Ackerbaufrüchte und Kartoffeln obligatorisch halten. Das nächste Thema ist der gesamte Kontrollmechanismus, also bei allen im pflanzlichen Reproduktionsmaterial, also wenn Saatgut registriert und dann verifiziert wird und zertifiziert wird, gibt es ein Kontrollsystem dahinter und es gibt eine europäische Kontrollverordnung, allgemeine Kontrollverordnung, die sogenannte Official Control Regulation. Die Kommission hat vorgeschlagen, dass diese Verordnung auch für das pflanzliche Reproduktionsmaterial gilt. Der Rat sieht das etwas differenzierter, aber ich glaube, hier werden wir eine Einigung finden, dass grundsätzlich diese Verordnung gilt, mit einigen Ausnahmen, spezifischen Ausnahmen, die für pflanzliches Reproduktionsmaterial wichtig sind. Gut, damit komme ich zum, glaube ich, eigentlichen Teil, der Sie interessiert, und das sind die Artikel 26 und folgende, das heißt die Artikel, wo es um Umgang mit alten und auch nicht alten Sorten geht, mit Arbeit, mit Erhaltungssorten und so weiter. Ich glaube grundsätzlich, das Parlament war hier sehr ambitioniert. Das Parlament hat eine ganze Reihe von Ausnahmen vorgesehen und Verbesserungen vorgesehen. Auch hier, der Rat ist etwas zurückhaltender, um das einmal gelinde darzustellen. Also da gibt es durchaus einige Punkte, wo wir unterschiedlicher Meinung sind, und ich möchte die kurz aufzählen. Da geht es erstens im Artikel 26 um Erhaltungssorten, also pflanzliches Reproduktionsmaterial von Erhaltungssorten. Und hier haben wir im Parlament das Ganze sehr weit gefasst. Der Rat will diese Sorten auf Regionen beschränken. Ich halte davon eigentlich relativ wenig, weil wieso soll eine Sorte auf eine Region beschränkt werden? Eine Sorte, solche Sorten haben natürlich sehr oft einen Ursprung in einer Region, aber das heißt noch lange nicht, dass sie in anderen Regionen nicht angebaut werden können oder der Anbau keinen Sinn ergibt. Unverständlich für uns im Parlament ist auch die Position des Rates im Artikel 27. Dort geht es in dieser gesamten Frage der Ausnahmen um heterogenes Material, also Landsorten. Der Rat hat dort das heterogene Material herausgestrichen. Das scheint mir nicht logisch zu sein. Also viele dieser Sorten sind Landsorten, die aus heterogenem Material bestehen. Das heißt, es sind natürlich nicht reine Sorten, sondern es ist sehr oft heterogenes Material, das ja auch dann den Vorteil bietet, dass es durch die genetische Variabilität dieser Sorten eine hohe Anpassungsfähigkeit an Standorte, an Klima, auch an Klimaveränderungen hat. Und warum sollten wir mit solchem heterogenen Material, wieso sollen wir solches heterogenes Material bei diesen Ausnahmen herausstreichen? Dann ist vielleicht der wichtigste Punkt oder ein wichtiger Punkt die Definition von Dynamic. Und hier lese ich ja das auf Englisch vor, weil ich sie leider hier noch nur auf Englisch habe. Das Parlament hat eine Definition von Dynamic Conservation festgelegt und wir haben im Parlament gesagt, Dynamic Conservation means the preservation of genetic diversity within and between cultivated plant species and includes both in situ and ex situ conservation with the aim of a sustainable use of plant genetic resources and biodiversity in a way and at a rate that does not lead to the long-term decline of biological diversity, thereby maintaining the potential to meet the needs and aspiration of present and future generations. Das heißt, wir haben versucht zu definieren, was wir eigentlich hier unter Dynamic Conservation meinen. Und um diese Definition, aber das wird uns der Ratvertreter nachher sicher sagen, gibt es durchaus unterschiedliche Meinungen und unterschiedliche Auffassungen, weil das dann auch verbunden ist mit dem nächsten Teil im Artikel 29, wo wir gesagt haben, dass die Produktion und der Vertrieb von pflanzlichem Reproduktionsmaterial, das eben von solchen im Rahmen dieser Dynamic Conservation gemacht wird und von Conservation Organizations, also von Organisationen, die sich darum kümmern und Netzwerken innerhalb von festgelegten kleinen Mengen, die wir in einem Annex definiert haben, Art für Art, dass die vollkommen außerhalb des Anwendungsbereichs der Verordnung sein soll, also die nicht die Regeln der Verordnung befolgen muss, sondern out of the scope sind. Also wir wollten den Leuten, die das machen, keine zusätzliche Bürokratie aufbürden. Und wir haben dort gesagt, dieser Austausch, der kann free sein oder free of charge or not. Das heißt, er kann auch entgolten werden sozusagen. Das ist wahrscheinlich die Definition, also diese zwei Bereiche ist wahrscheinlich der schwierigste oder der Punkt, wo wir die größten Debatten mit dem Rat haben und wo wir derzeit versuchen, eine Einigung zu finden. Dazu gehört dann auch, dass in der Verordnung festgelegt ist, was Austausch bedeutet. Und die Kommission hat hier vorgeschlagen, Austausch bedeutet marketed to and between gene banks, organizations and networks. Das Parlament hat hinzugefügt, marketed to, by, between and with organizations and networks dedicated to dynamic conservation. Das heißt, wir haben es breiter gefasst. Und auch hier ist der Rat nicht ganz unserer Meinung. Die kommen dann auch damit auch zum Schluss. Ein wichtiger Punkt, den wir noch eingefügt haben, den Artikel 30, auch den kann ich vorlesen, weil er, glaube ich, für Sie, die in diesem Bereich arbeiten, vielleicht das zentrale Punkt ist. Das Parlament hat hier gesagt, der Exchange, also der Austausch von pflanzlichem Reproduktionsmaterial, betrifft das gesamte pflanzliche Reproduktionsmaterial, nicht nur Samen. Und er kann, also Farmers may exchange Plant Reproduction Materials in kind, und das Parlament also umsonst, und das Parlament hat hinzugefügt, or for monetary compensation. Das heißt, dieser Austausch kann nicht nur als Tausch sozusagen passieren, sondern auch als Verkauf, also mit einem Geld, was natürlich wichtig ist, weil der Austausch, der reine Tausch ja nicht immer sinnvoll ist. Auch hier möchte der Rat, für mich ziemlich unverständlich, diesen Austausch nur für Samen gestatten und nicht für restliches pflanzliches Reproduktionsmaterial. Und da kann man, glaube ich, durchaus darüber diskutieren, ob es Arten gibt, wo es ein großes phytosanitäres Risiko gibt, wie zum Beispiel bei Kartoffeln. Aber wieso sollen zum Beispiel Jungbäume, Jungreben und so weiter, wieso sollen sie nicht in diesen Anwendungsbereich fallen? Das wäre es dann auch mehr oder weniger noch einmal, glaube ich, zusammenfassend. Wir haben im Parlament versucht, hier eine Situation zu schaffen, dass jene Organisationen und auch Bäuerinnen und Bauern, die sich um alte Sorten, um Biodiversität, um Weiterentwicklung dieser Sorten kümmern, dass die relativ unbeschadet sozusagen von dieser Verordnung ihren Job machen können. Ich glaube, dass es übrigens auch im Sinn der Züchtung insgesamt ist, weil hier ja Genmaterial erhalten bleibt, das auch wieder verwendet werden kann an anderer Stelle als in der klassischen Züchtung. Und ist mein Job jetzt, und das werden wir in den nächsten Wochen machen, zu versuchen, hier eine möglichst gute Lösung zu finden, die uns dann zu einer Einigung mit dem Rat auch bringt. Herzlichen Dank.
Wunderbar, herzlichen Dank. Thank you very much for this presentation. I think we have already entered into details of the negotiations which are going on. I think we would close with two more contributions. This first round, one will be unfortunately only by video, and I hope that is prepared. And that is by from the Socialist and Democratic Group, Christophe Clergeau. He's not able to be with us. He is Vice President of the S&D Group. And he is present. He is a member in the Environment and Agri Committee, also in Sante. So he was also responsible as shadow rapporteur on the regulation of plants obtained through new genomic techniques. That's also a point which might be raised today. But I would like to invite, if that's possible, to have the video. Is that ready? I
would have been delighted to be here with you.
Here we are.
Thanks to Martin Häusling for the invitation to present my position.
Can you hear? Is that loud enough?
The ENVI rapporteur on this file. I would also like to thank Herbert Dorfmann for the good cooperation we have. I think we share the same starting point. Seeds and PRM is a cornerstone for agriculture resilience. When we are dealing with seeds, we are not dealing with a technical issue. We are dealing with the future of agriculture and its capacity to adapt and to address the necessity to be resilient and to tackle climate change. Our priority must be clear: safeguard diversity, ensure quality and transparency of seeds, and avoid concentration and privatization of genetic resources. First, we have to protect farmers' rights and seed diversity. Farmers must retain the right to use, exchange, and conserve their own seeds. Small exchanges, including those with limited compensation for costs, should not be over-regulated. We also need to protect dynamic conservation. Conservation varieties, heterogeneous materials, gene banks, these are not marginal issues. They are essential reservoirs of genetic diversity, especially in the face of climate change. Diversity within fields is one of our strongest tools against climate shocks, pests, and diseases. Sustainability cannot be reduced to a checklist. The proposal introduces the concept of value for sustainable cultivation and use. But sustainability can be reduced to a single trait. A plant is sustainable in an ecosystemic approach, and we have to take into account how it is cultivated and the production system it refers to, including organic and low-input agriculture. The new criteria must not lead to the exclusion of varieties that contribute to biodiversity. We must avoid creating a system that favors uniform industrial models over diversified farming systems. The PRM file is also closely linked to the ongoing negotiation on the NGT regulation. We will have NGT on the market and they will be registered. We need transparency to be guaranteed for full information for all actors. Labeling of seeds must be clear, and sustainability claims must be credible and verifiable. Moreover, we must address the issue of patents. If there is patents on NGTs, we need to share all the informations that allow new innovators and new breeders to ask to openness of patents and to keep open the path for new innovation. And in this perspective, I would prefer to keep the system of plant variety protection that has worked because it balances innovation with access. As you see, when we are dealing with seeds and PRM, we are dealing with the future of agriculture and we are dealing with political choices for our food system. I want to protect the independence of farmers. I want to keep an open access to genetic resources in order to preserve biodiversity and capacity to tackle climate change. And I also want a food system that is not monopolized by a few breeders. I hope the Parliament will act as a team to have good success in this negotiation and to have full benefit for the future of farming and fooding. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. You see there are three groups who are cooperating in the European Parliament on this file. And it's, I think, as Mr. Dorfmann said, it's a longer tradition that these three groups cooperate in order to create a majority. We heard that the positions of the Parliament are somewhat still in distance to what the common position of the Council is. But perhaps I would like to now ask Mr. Gabriel. You don't have to immediately react to all the things that have been said. I'm sure you have prepared also an explanation of how you got to the Council position and what are your main points. We will later have a possibility in the panel to go more into details. So the floor is yours, Mr. Gabriel.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Mr. Dorfmann and Mr. Häusling for this kind invitation and all those who worked for this event to take place. I would also like to repeat, like Mr. Dorfmann did, that of course the trilogue process is ongoing for a bit more than 1 month now. And with this opportunity, I would like to thank Mr. Dorfmann and his team for the cooperation, with the good cooperation that we had so far. A cooperation that also makes the presidency optimistic that we could be able to deliver this very important legislation during the Cyprus presidency. So having said this, I'm pleased to be here with you today to present a little bit of the Council's position on the proposed regulation on plant reproductive material. This proposal forms part of the Commission's broader package on sustainable food systems and aims to modernize and simplify the current legal framework governing the production and marketing of seeds and other reproductive material across our Union. The Council mandate builds on the Commission proposal and seeks to strike a careful balance between three key objectives. First, we want to ensure high-quality plant reproductive material for farmers and the entire agri-food chain. Second, we want to safeguard plant genetic diversity and support biodiversity. And third, reducing administrative burden and improving clarity and coherence of the rules for operators and national authorities. Safeguarding plant diversity has been a central consideration in the Council discussions. The Council fully recognizes that PRM is the foundation of our food system. The diversity of seeds and varieties is directly linked to resilience to climate change, to pests and diseases, and to evolving market and consumer demands. In this respect, the mandate reinforces provisions that facilitate the conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources. In particular, the Council supports clearer and more workable rules for conservation varieties and amateur varieties. These categories are essential to ensure that traditional, locally adapted, and regionally significant varieties can continue to be marketed under proportionate requirements. The objective is to maintain genetic diversity in farmers' fields and gardens while preserving traceability and quality standards. The Council mandate also addresses the need to facilitate innovation and adaptation. We support a framework that allows the marketing of heterogeneous material which can contribute to greater genetic diversity within crops and enhance resilience under changing climatic conditions. At the same time, it ensures that minimum standards of identity, health, and quality are respected so that farmers can rely on the material they purchase. Another important element of the Council's approach concerns proportionality. We worked, as the rapporteur said, for a long time. It's not always very easy for 27 different authorities to align to one single position. So we work to ensure that requirements are risk-based and adapted to the size and type of the operator. This is particularly relevant for small operators and niche producers who often play a key role in maintaining biodiversity. Simplified procedures and clearer definitions aim to make the system more accessible without undermining the integrity of the internal market. The mandate of the Council also seeks to strengthen coherence with other Union policies, including those related to biodiversity, organic productions, plant health, and official controls. The proposal is aligned with the objectives of the European Green Deal and biodiversity strategy, recognizing that seed policy is not merely a technical matter, but strategic instrument for sustainability. At the same time, we have emphasized the importance of preserving the functioning of the internal market. Harmonized rules across the Union are essential to ensure fair competition, legal certainty, and the free movement of plant reproductive material. Divergence between national systems would risk fragmentation and create obstacles for operators, including those engaged in conservation and niche production. In our mandate, we therefore sought to clarify responsibilities between operators and competent authorities to improve transparency in variety registration procedures and to ensure that the system remains science-based and enforceable. In conclusion, I would like to say that we believe that the Council position reflects a balanced approach, supporting biodiversity and genetic diversity, enabling innovation and adaptation, safeguarding quality and plant health, and maintaining a well-functioning internal market. We look forward to continue engaging constructively with the European Parliament during the currently ongoing interinstitutional negotiations. Our shared objective is clear: to deliver a modern, coherent, and forward-looking framework for plant reproductive material that contributes to resilient agriculture and the long-term safeguarding of plant diversity in the European Union. A bit earlier, the rapporteur referred to specific points of the Parliament position. Of course, we are in the process of the negotiations. Even this morning, we had a technical meeting, and yesterday as well. We have arranged for a lot of meetings in order to be able to conclude to a result that not only the Council and the Parliament envisage, but a result that will be in the benefit of all the actors of this sector. It's a result that they have been long waiting for. The rapporteur reminded that this is not the first time that the EU is trying to legislate this sector. So we need to make sure that the result is one that will give us the opportunity to contribute to this sector for the next 30 or even more years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is a long perspective indeed. But yes, we've done this first part as an introduction of an explanation of the different positions. We will later have a panel where we come back to details, and maybe we can use that panel discussion to come to conclusions which help the institutions to find a good solution and a good balance. So, but for that, we need a reaction of people who will be dealing with this legislation in practice. So I would like to invite different speakers, and I think you all know those who have prepared themselves. Would you please come to join us here on the panel? Thank you. We will have you back, and we will later also have the Commission, Mr. Flevaris, who will join us to explain the Commission's role and position. So welcome practitioners, people who deal with diversity in practice, and will share with us their observations of the proposals which we have just heard about. So, on my left is Magdalena Prila. Magdalena Prila is working with Arche Noah, and since a long time we know each other as a very clear voice for diversity in gardeners. At the beginning, thank you very much. At the beginning, only in Austria, but now having really a very important role to play on a European level. And I see on my far right Riccardo Bocci, not politically on the far right, but on this panel. He's technical director of Rete Semi-Rurali in Italy, and also plays a role as a rather important on the European level with Let's Liberate Diversity, a broad network of activists in this field. And Edwin Nuyten on my right. He's the chair of the European Consortium of Organic Plant Breeding. So he's a breeder. He has the experience of what you can do with plant reproductive material and what you can't do, possibly, if the legislation is coming in a certain way. And then on farmers' rights, I will have, is that Chloe? Yes, Chloe, sorry, I got confused a bit. Chloe Mathurin is of La Via Campesina, European Coordination. She's policy officer, and she follows this issue since quite some time. And last but not least, on my left is Hans-Joachim Bagnier. He's board member and managing director of an Arboretum in Olderdissen in Germany, northern Germany, and he is a specialist on tree varieties which have been conserved in great number at his place, but he's also engaged to influence policy that makes life easier for people who do this kind of life. But I will not talk much more about it. I would perhaps start inviting Magdalena to give us an introduction. And we may possibly still have a possibility. It's not going to be a panel. It's a way of expressing your concerns and your proposals so that the organization or the representatives of the institutions active in the trilogue can take that last minute into account. It's the floor, yours, the floor.
Good afternoon. Today, I want to ask you a very simple question. Are we ready to let farmers and gardeners choose? Slides. The EU seed marketing legislation is decisive for our gardens, fields, and for our plates. We gathered here today under the motto, safeguarding Europe's cultivated plant diversity. But it's not only for the plants that we need to safeguard diversity. It is for you, and it's for me. It's for all of us, so that we have healthy, diversified, rich, tasty food on all of our plates. As Achenoa, we are active in the conservation, sustainable use, and breeding of cultivated plant diversity. We sell rare varieties in small amounts to gardeners and farmers in order to get it out there and to keep it from extinction. We are members of the European coordination Let's Liberate Diversity, a network active in 20 countries consisting of 170 national and regional organizations that together maintain 44,000 different varieties. As you can see, it needs the many of us to take care of our cultural heritage. But why do we do that? Here you can see our treasure, part of our treasure, the 5,500 different varieties we as Achenoa take care of in our archive. But we do not keep it because it's so beautiful. We keep it because we want to give this diversity back to the people. We want to bring it in gardens, we want to bring it in fields, we want to bring it on our plates. And now with this legislation, the passing on of this diversity, the entire reason why we do our work is endangered. And so I'm very, very happy to be here with you today to discuss viable solutions for that. So what's the problem? Where do we start off? The restrictive marketing legislation that we have in place at the moment jeopardizes agrobiodiversity. The aim of the EU directives back then was to promote the intensification of agriculture. But this meant that there's no free circulation of seeds. The market access is restricted through industrial breeding norms that favor varieties with a high degree of genetic uniformity. So this system, by design, already comes with very, very negative consequences for crop diversity, which is lost, for farmer seed production, which is sidelined, for micro-enterprises, which are pushed to the side and restricted in their work. That means in order to protect farmers, we in the European Union, we have restricted them from using diversity. It's time to make a change. Let them choose themselves what they want to grow. To find an answer to the question if we are ready to let farmers and gardeners choose for themselves, let's look at the latest governance developments. As it was said already today, in 2014, the Parliament rejected a proposed EU seed legislation. 650 members of the European Parliament voted against it, and with it abandoned a big threat to agrobiodiversity. In 2022, the EU organic regulation and with it the provisions on organic heterogeneous material came into force with a simplified notification procedure. And outside of EU legislation, in 2018, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Peasants, including a right to seed, was adopted. Let's also look at what citizens want in order to answer this question. Often when we discuss the file, I hear, well, it's so technical. And yes, it's true, it's a complex matter. But still, 200,000 people from all over Europe supported the petition Raise Our Forks for Diversity. They demand diversity, they want diversity, they want freedom of choice. And the good news are, we can reach a win-win situation. There is no need to compromise on either or. We can let each and every farmer and gardener choose for themselves what they want to plant. So what does this mean in detail for the reform? What is needed for the dynamic conservation of cultivated plant diversity? And again, here it's an easy answer. Just let us do our work. What does this mean in detail? State gene banks cannot conserve the full genetic diversity alone. They rely on the engagement of many different actors to fulfill their state obligations under the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. So amongst those actors which are really important for the conservation of our genetic diversities, there are farmers and farmer networks, seed saver associations, private fruit tree collections, fruit nurseries, seed libraries, local seed companies, charities, schools, seed projects. So many are needed to protect our cultivated plant diversity, to keep it alive. And the work that these non-state actors are doing is especially important because it goes beyond just static preservation, what we know from the freezer. No, it is on-farm and in-garden conservation, so it allows the continuous evolvement and adaptation to changing environments. So all actors involved in the conservation work need legal certainty to be able to transfer plant genetic resources for its conservation freely, so outside the scope of this legislation, which is meant for seed marketing. The rules for seed marketing designed for the commercial PRM market must not endanger this work. This vital work is usually done by actors with very limited resources and often involves old and endangered varieties, so usual market rules are out of place here. In order for this exemption to be effective, it needs to be based on the reason why, so the conservation, and not restricted to an actor, so the gene bank. Also, the national gene banks, by the way, they support this general exemption because they know that many actors are needed. The Parliament has proposed quantity limits for conservation work outside the scope of the legislation to prevent misuse or unfair competition. Just to note, many other exemptions from the scope come with no limitations as the ones for breeding, for research, also new exemptions introduced or suggested by the Council on closed value chains. But anyways, conservation work is happening in small amounts. To conclude, in times of warmer climatic temperatures, more extreme weather conditions, and new pests and diseases, the remaining genetic diversity and decentralized local seed production will be our lifeline to provide resilience. Let's take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. It's always a hard job to be timekeeper, but I think we will manage. You have you have in front of you the next speakers. You have in front of you the minutes you are using.
Okay.
So I think, Ricardo, you already see you will be speaking both on similar things.
Yeah,
so
I know.
You share your time.
My 8 minutes.
So I won't take any of your time anymore. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hannes. But I need my presentation. Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Riccardo Bocci. I'm an agronomist, director of Rete Semirurali, the Italian Seed Network. We are a network of 40 organizations, and we are also members together with ARCENOA of the European Coordination Let's Liberate Diversity. And we are also partners with some organizations that are in this room of the European Horizon Project Life Seeding. So I also speaking on behalf of Life Seeding. And the next, please. I will... the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. I will focus my presentation on conservation varieties, and that are one of the most promising category improved by the Commission proposal. In this picture, you can see our field days in an organic farm with our experimental trials on conservation of varieties and organic heterogeneous materials. The next, please. And yeah, okay, sorry, it's late. So, regarding conservation of varieties, as you know, the Commission proposed to open the conservation of variety category to newly bred varieties and adapted to local conditions. Maybe they took into consideration our previous horizon projects like Live Seed and Diversity and Diversity Food when we started in Europe to work on dynamic management of agrobiodiversity. Then the Parliament improved the proposal, introducing the concept of land races that also really science-based. Old and new land races derived by on-farm selection. It also changed the level of diversity of this material, saying satisfactory instead of high genetic level. And then during my presentation, you will see how this adjective is important, it's relevant. Then, the next slide, please. In December, the Council amended the proposal, limiting the category of newly bred varieties only to fruit and vegetable, and adding a new definition of local variety. So that's the situation that we have as now on conservation varieties regarding the three institutions. The next one. Yeah, it's coming. So what we think about the three different definitions? We think that it's important to keep the new text simple as possible. So maybe we discuss a lot about this definition of conservation variety. So maybe we can have one definition of conservation varieties, and then within this definition, we can keep traditionally grown and newly bred. And that's important to keep newly bred also for agricultural species and not only fruit and vegetables. And it's also relevant to keep the scope of this variety. So we have to refer to sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. The next one, please. And why it's important? Because in agricultural self-pollinating species, we see that we need to have a legal space between organic heterogeneous material and uniform varieties, because they are not so diverse, because they are self-pollinating, and so they don't have a category as such right now. This point will be really crucial for self-pollinating species. And so I think that we shouldn't miss the opportunity to make this new regulation, as said before, it will shape European farming system in the future, the most innovative in the world, defining adapted and flexible rules for seed marketing, but at the same time, leaving enough space to diversity and local evolution of varieties farmers' fields. And that's not only a matter of Europe, it will be also a matter of global south, because Africa, they are copying our seed laws, and they have as many more diversity than us. So thank you very much. I finish with
Thank you, Riccardo. Edwin, please.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll quickly continue. My name is Edwin Uyten, Chair of the European Consortium of Organic Plant Breeding, and the European Consortium of Organic Plant Breeding is a network of people involved in organic plant breeding across the whole of Europe. Here you can see a long list of advantages of non-DOS varieties and organic varieties for organic farmers and breeders. So it builds upon what Riccardo already mentioned. We need more diversity, not only in crop diversity, but also in the types of varieties that we use. And the list of advantages of such varieties keeps on growing. Next slide, please. And so the new proposed PRM, it also has advantages. When it comes to organic varieties, there are adapted registration protocols for organic varieties. In the project seeding, new adapted protocols are being developed, and that in the end, hopefully, that for all crops we'll have adapted registration procedures for organic varieties which have a bit more diversity than the standard uniform varieties we know. Next slide, please. And yeah, it's clear for us, it's important that when it comes to plant genetic resources, reproductive material, that it should be sold to amateurs as well, not only for a particular set of varieties or crops, but for all species. Why is this important? Also, amateur farmers, they grow organically bred varieties, but also they can play a role in breeding. So in various catalogs with organic varieties and organic seeds, you'll find varieties bred by amateurs. So in the organic sector, professional breeding and amateur breeding, they are not separate worlds, but they meet each other. Next slide, please. And an example of where amateur breeding and professional breeding can meet is actually an example from conventional farming in the Netherlands, where already for decades farmers are involved in the development of new potato varieties. And it is estimated that about 50% of these varieties are selected by farmers. And the Netherlands is actually, when it comes to potato, one of the bigger players in Europe. So it actually is an example of how amateurs and professional farmers can work together with breeders. Next slide, please. So the next slide will show that we need a diversity when it comes to different types of varieties. Next one. And that this is the basis for organic breeding. So we need a whole scope of different types of varieties to keep as broad a basis for future breeding as possible. And in a way, I hope the proposed regulation will be able to foster this broad basis for future breeding. Next slide, please. This will then be also my last one. Because this is what we propose as EcoPB, that there are different breeding strategies, and they all have advantages and disadvantages, but together they can strengthen new pathways for breeding, which we need when it comes to food security and also when it comes to climate change and dealing with that. So that I hope that actually the new legislation can actually support fostering diversity in breeding and also develop new pathways for breeding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edwin. And I would like to hand over on the aspect of farmers' rights in all this to Chloé Mathurin. She's a policy officer of the European coordination of Via Campesina. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So good afternoon. So today I'm speaking indeed on behalf of ACVC, which is a European organization representing small-scale farmers and agriculture workers. Next slide, please. So today my presentation will focus on the farmers' rights on seeds, which means their right to use, to reuse, to save, to exchange, and even to sell their seeds, which are, as you may know, recognized in several international treaties. So when we talk about farmers' rights on seeds, we are not only talking about the rights, but also we are talking about a necessity, a necessary practice. Because basically those rights are part of what we call farmer seed systems, which are the collective knowledge and practices of farmers on their own seeds. And those systems are really important in a context of declining agrobiodiversity and climate change, to adapt the plant to local growing conditions. It's also very important for the economic balance of the farm. And the exchange between farmers of PRM are really at the core of these farmer seed systems. So this is why I will focus lots of my presentation on this today. Next slide, please. So I would like to explain a little bit what is the situation now with the exchange of PRM between farmers. At the moment, they are not regulated at EU level, which means that there is a diversity of situation in the countries. They are already recognized in various countries, and in many countries they are not regulated, but they are still happening formally or informally. So for the countries which formally recognize them, for example, we have the case of France and Italy. They make a distinction between PRM marketing and farmer seed exchange as peer-to-peer exchange, which is something we think is quite relevant. So now with the draft PRM regulation, the situation that we have is that there is an attempt to regulate them at EU level. And this attempt is Article 30, exchange in kind between farmers, which for us, for ECVC, is quite insufficient. Because, of course, this Article 30 offers some derogations from the requirements of PRM marketing, but in the end, the exchange are still defined as marketing, which means that they are still subjected to the plant health rules of PRM marketing, for example, which can be a bit of a problem because these rules are meant for seed companies. They are extremely costly for small-scale farmers, but also they can be incompatible with the practices of farmers and especially the dynamic management of seeds on the farm. So in practice, this kind of PRM marketing requirement for farmer seed exchange, if there are controls, might lead to a ban of the exchanges. So we consider it could be even a setback compared to the situation that we have today. I would like to add that during the Council negotiation, there were also a lot of debate on this Article 30, and we know that also many member states were not really in favor of maintaining this Article 30 because of the difficulty to control these exchanges at national level. Next slide, please. So here today, because we are discussing a bit what can be done in the trilogue, I would like to really stress what should be included in the regulation to make sure that this right of farmers to exchange PRM is fulfilled. And a lot of these elements actually are also in the Parliament position, which is quite good, and we were happy to see that the Parliament supported this. So, yes, the exchange have to concern PRM, not only seeds. The fact that the Parliament introduced financial compensation is also a very positive element. We also see that there is not really, it's not really relevant to restrict the exchange only at local level. And very importantly, on the quantities, we are not against having quantity limit, of course, to avoid development of parallel market. But these quantity limits, they have to be suited to the needs of farmers, of small-scale farmers for agricultural production. And ideally, they have to be set at national level so that they are adapted to the national context. And finally, I would say this is the most important point for us, is really the fact that this farmer seed exchange should not be subjected to the plant health rules of seed marketing, of PRM marketing, but rather to the plant health rules of agricultural production, which are much more suited to these practices. So now, how to do this in practice? So for Via Campesina, we think that one of the solutions could be to remove Article 30 altogether and to actually exclude those PRM exchanges from the scope of the regulation while continuing to set quantity limits that are adapted to small-scale farmers. Alternatively, if this option is completely impossible, there is also the option to improve the Article 30 with the conditions that I have cited above. But this can be done only in the condition that farmers' exchange are exempted from those plant health rules of PRM marketing. So I really want to stress that we are not against having plant health rules, but we have to make sure that they are compatible with the farmer seed exchange, otherwise it will just be a ban. Next slide, please. So I just want to echo also a little bit another concern of the farmers on this file, and I want to echo a little bit what Christophe Clergeau said earlier on the link with the NGT proposal. So we know that if the NGT proposal, we will end up with patented NGT in the market in the EU. So it's a very big demand of farmers that we have transparency on the breeding methods and on the IPR, on the property rights, intellectual property rights, both on the label and also in the catalog. And just maybe a small point of attention on the fact that indeed there shouldn't be also NGT and patents in the new diverse category, because this is quite incompatible, let's say, with their objective. Next slide, please. So, yes, I'm already coming to a conclusion and on time, as I see. So the fact is that the current text, according to us, doesn't really implement the right of farmers to exchange their seeds. So there are really necessary modifications that are needed at this stage, so that farmers can continue to exchange as they do now, informally or formally in many countries. And otherwise, this might be a setback for farmers and agrobiodiversity, and this is something I hope we can avoid. So thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chloe, also for keeping the time. And the last speaker will be Hans Joachim Barnier, and he will be talking especially about the situation for fruit tree growers, and he will speak in German.
Ja, vielen Dank, dass ich hier einmal die Situation schildern kann als Vertreter eines Betriebes, der sich speziell mit der Vielfalt von Obstsorten in diesem Fall befasst. Ich möchte unsere Sorgen und Probleme dazu schildern und vielleicht ein bisschen die Situation beschreiben, in der wir uns in der Praxis befinden. Next slide. In Deutschland haben wir eine sehr breite Szene an Menschen, die sich für die Erhaltung von Kulturpflanzenvielfalt engagieren und die Saatgut auf Märkten oder über den Online-Versand an interessierte Privatleute, manchmal auch an kleine Betriebe, abgeben. Viele von denen sind reine Hobbyakteure, manche sind halbprofessionelle Akteure, manche sind Vereine, lokale Vereine, aber es gibt eben auch kleine Betriebe, also Nano-Enterprises, die sich spezialisiert haben auf die Vielfalt von Sorten und von Arten. Genauso ist es beim Obst, was ja bisher eine eigene gesetzliche Regelung hatte. Beim Obst haben wir auch in Deutschland eine Vielzahl von Leuten, die sich mit der Erhaltung insbesondere traditioneller Obstsorten einsetzen. Auch da sind viele Hobbyakteure, manche eben auch halb professionell oder Vereine, und es gibt aber auch einige Betriebe, die das sich zum Schwerpunkt gesetzt haben. Und wir haben im Obstbereich bisher in Deutschland eigentlich sehr liberale Regelungen gehabt. Next slide. Wichtig ist auch, vieles von dem, was wir erhalten, ist nicht in Genbanken. Das haben ja die Vorredner auch schon gesagt. Wir haben viele Sorten, sowohl im Obstbereich als auch im Gemüsebereich, die nicht in Genbanken vertreten sind. Ja, ich will das mal am Beispiel meines Betriebes deutlich machen. Wir sind so das, was man bei uns einen Nischenbetrieb nennt. Wir sind spezialisiert auf traditionelle Sorten. Wir verkaufen das ganze Jahr über traditionelle Sorten. Ein paar habe ich hier unten ausgestellt. Und sagen wir mal, von unserer Sorte gibt es nicht viele Betriebe. Aber wir versuchen das und unser Hauptgeschäft ist eigentlich die Vermarktung von Obst, Säften und ähnlichen Produkten. Aber unser Kernstück ist eine Obstsortensammlung. Die existiert inzwischen 30 Jahre, seit 1995. Dort haben wir eine Pflanzung mit 400 Apfelsorten, 150 Birnensorten und dann noch 100 Sorten von Steinobst, Kirschen, Pflaumen, Aprikosen. Auch hier ist es wieder so, viele Sorten sind nicht in den Genbanken vertreten. Und ja, warum machen wir das überhaupt? Warum befassen wir uns mit alten Sorten? Wir könnten ja auch einfach unsere Marktsorten anbauen, das wäre einfacher. Wir machen das, weil wir festgestellt haben, dass unsere modernen Supermarktsorten relativ hoch anfällig sind für verschiedene Krankheiten. Wir fahren unsere Anlage mit minimalem Pflanzenschutz und da sehen wir eben, mit den modernen Sorten gewinnen wir keinen Krug. Wir sehen gleichzeitig, dass wir viele alte Sorten haben, die das so mitmachen, wie wir das machen, mit geringem Pflanzenschutz und die dennoch frei von Schorf, Mehltau oder anderen Krankheiten sind. Und noch mehr, wir stellen fest, dass diese Sorten von Allergikern vertragen werden. Auch das müsste man ausführlicher begründen, warum das so ist. Wer von Ihnen Allergiker ist, darf das mal heute probieren oder darf sich was mitnehmen. So, weil wir diese Sorten erhalten, werden wir natürlich häufig auch gefragt, können Sie uns nicht Reiser von bestimmten seltenen Sorten schicken? Ja, das machen wir. Wir versenden im Winter immer auch Veredelungsreiser, Skeins for Grafting. Das machen wir nicht nur regional, sondern diese Reiser werden verschickt. Genau, hier habe ich mal ein paar mitgebracht, kannst du mal hochhalten. Wir verschicken die auch ins Ausland teilweise. Wir haben auch anderen Sammlungen aus Österreich und Holland mal schon geholfen, sich Sammlungen aufzubauen, weil wir eben das schon sehr lange machen. Und auch die Deutsche Genbank Obst als Genbank hat auch schon von uns Reiser bekommen. Jetzt ist es allerdings so, dass dieser Teil des Reiserversands, der macht nicht mal 1% unseres Umsatzes aus. Das ist nur sozusagen, das machen wir nebenbei. Das machen wir nicht, weil wir damit viel Geld gewinnen wollen, sondern das machen wir, weil wir der Meinung sind, dass diese Vielfalt erhalten werden muss, weil uns diese Sorten am Herzen liegen und weil wir glauben, da sind viele gute Eigenschaften mit verbunden. Und wir machen auch Öffentlichkeitsarbeit. Das heißt, wir können den Leuten erzählen, welche Eigenschaften diese Sorten haben. Das ist etwas, was die Genbanken meistens nicht tun. Wir halten also diese Diversität lebendig auf dem Acker und haben sie nicht nur kryokonserviert in Kühlschränken. Next one. Wir befürchten, dass uns diese Arbeit zur Erhaltung biologischer Vielfalt mit der geplanten Verordnung über Pflanzenvermehrungsmaterial in Zukunft erschwert wird. Vor allen Dingen alleine schon durch den bürokratischen Aufwand, der entsteht, wenn wir das alles anmelden müssen, wenn wir dokumentieren müssen und so weiter. Das machen wir dann für diese 0,5% unseres Umsatzes. Haben wir dann einen riesen Aufwand. Das kriegen wir personell gar nicht hin. Und Sie müssen sich vorstellen, wir verkaufen nicht 100 Reiser von einer Sorte, wir verkaufen ein Reis von 100 verschiedenen Sorten. Dann können Sie sich vorstellen, was das dann für ein Aufwand ist, wenn wir das alles dokumentieren müssen, anmelden müssen und so weiter. Ja, also das macht uns Sorgen. Uns macht auch noch Sorgen, natürlich ist es womöglich mit Gebühren verbunden. Uns macht auch noch Sorgen, was soll die regionale Begrenzung, dass es zukünftig nur noch Erhaltungssorten gibt, die nur noch lokal verkauft werden dürfen. Das halten wir für vollkommen unsinnig, weil das ist noch nie so gewesen. Obstsorten sind schon immer über die ganze Welt verschickt worden. Die Reiser sind verschickt worden. Und dann hat man geschaut, was gedeiht denn bei uns gut. Also wir haben, es können österreichische Sorten auch in Norddeutschland gedeihen und umgekehrt. Also was ist diese Begrenzung? Die halten wir für schlicht fachlich unsinnig. Wir hatten bisher ja auch bei Obst die Regelung der Amateursorten, wo wir kleine Mengen immer überregional handeln konnten. Jetzt sollen die Amateursorten abgeschafft werden. Also alles, was damit zu tun hat, das macht uns große Sorge und wir halten es fachlich für unsinnig. Wir stehen auch mit diesem Problem nicht allein. Eine Umfrage von Arche Noah unter 188 dieser Kleinstbetriebe aus 16 Ländern ergab ja, dass viele gesagt haben, sie schränken dann ihr Angebot ein. Oder Einzelne haben auch gesagt, sie hören dann auf. Mit dieser ganzen Bürokratie machen sie nicht weiter. Deshalb also unser Appell an Sie, schaffen Sie Regelungen, die die On-Farm-Erhaltung biologischer Vielfalt nicht beeinträchtigen. Nehmen Sie nicht nur Genbanken, sondern auch Vereine und auch Nanobetriebe, also auch die kleinen Betriebe, die davon leben, nehmen Sie die auch aus dem Geltungsbereich der geplanten Verordnung ganz raus. Ich sehe da eigentlich keine Alternative, wenn wir die Biodiversität nicht einschränken wollen in Zukunft. Höchstmengenregelungen können auch ein Weg sein, das zu bewerkstelligen. Ja, und nochmal ein Blick, jetzt next one. Ein Blick, um wie viel geht es da? Ne? Wir haben allein im Gemüsebereich in einem einzigen Verein sind 44 Personen organisiert, die sich mit der Erhaltung von 546 Arten Gemüse, Kräuter, Ackerkulturen befassen, und die erhalten 2450 Sorten. Das sind aber eben, die handeln selbstständig, die vermarkten nicht über einen Verein, sondern es sind teilweise Nanobetriebe. Und beim Obst ist es nicht anders. Wir haben 85 in einem Netzwerk vom Pomologenverein, 85 Erhalter, die haben 19.000 Apfelbäume und 5.500 Birnbäume. Und das sind 900 Apfelsorten und 370 Birnensorten. Und davon geben die Reiser ab. Ne? So, also das heißt, das ist eine große Vielfalt, die wir Gott sei Dank noch haben und wo wir aber befürchten, dass das verloren geht. Wir erhalten ein Weltkulturerbe, um das es geht. Und das ist mir wichtig, und das für bestimmte Normen eines europaweiten Vertriebs jetzt fallen zu lassen, das halte ich auch für gefährlich für die Biodiversität. Ja, wir bitten Sie, die Vielfalt in jeder Form zu unterstützen und nicht durch bürokratische Hürden zu erschweren. So, vielen Dank. Jetzt habe ich es ein ganz bisschen abgekürzt.
Wonderful. Dankeschön. Vielen Dank, Hans-Joachim. Great thanks to all your contributions. We come into the last session and we prepare now for a panel discussion. One of you will stay, and that's Magdalena. And I would like to invite Mr. Dorfmann as rapporteur, Mr. Flevaris from the Commission as representative of the Commission. And I would also like to have Martin Häusling with us. Oh, yes, sure, sorry. Yes, and of course the Council, please. Ja, das kriegen wir doch hin, oder? Also alles mitnotiert. Also 10 Minuten, Viertelstunde haben Sie noch. Ja, super, ist so herrlich. Wunderbar. In the ideal world, we would now be able to take the points that were made by the practitioners one by one and come to the conclusions you would draw from it. But that's, of course, difficult. I think there have been made a few very important points on different articles. I don't know whether you have been able to note that, but perhaps we start with this famous Article 30. There were proposals to completely slash it. There were proposals to modify it. Mr. Dorfmann was quite happy to say, well, we found a good solution in the Parliament's position. And I would like to have, first of all, as the origin of the proposals have come from the Commission, to have a first comment on this Article 30. If you could make that, just as a first reaction to what you've heard, what do you think, as a point of view of the Commission, about this article? Is that something substantial? Is that something which is rather not so important for you? What would be your first reaction on that article?
Thank you. What I say applies to all derogations.
Okay.
You can see that in the Commission proposals we put in a series of articles starting from 26 to 30 very specific, we name very specific derogations for very specific activities. So this means that we were very conscious when drafting the proposal that these activities need to be described and their relationship with the larger system needs to be defined. So we think in our proposal we have the right balance because we identify that the rules cannot be the same for all these activities. There needs to be some proportionality. So, of course, it is an option to say, no, all these things should be totally out of the regulation, or there should be broader derogations, or Council says there should be more limited or more stricter framework for those derogations. I think the most important what is very important is today the three institutions have all agreed that we have to discuss these derogations. There are both the mandates of the Council and the Parliament. And what is now our job in the trilogues is to find the right balance and make them work to serve the practitioners. Thank you.
Yes, that's the role of the Commission in the trilogue, to help to find a good conclusion. That was a very diplomatic first reaction. Thank you very much. Mr. Dorfmann, what would you think? Is this an important point? You seem to be quite happy with the proposal the Parliament has made. Do you think you could convince the Council to move a bit on that one? What would be your strategy in the trilogue?
Well, I'm happy with my own proposal. That is quite normal, I would say, no?
Well, but
No,
you've heard you have support or not support.
No, first
the
of all,
proposals have been made, yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thanks to the presentations, and I need to say, in the long work we had at the end of the last legislative term here in the European Parliament, and where the Parliament tried to define to have a position, there was a good cooperation with the shadow rapporteurs, and Martin is one of them. And there was also a good and fruitful cooperation with your sector, so also with AGNO and others. And we tried to find a reasonable solution, keeping in mind that we should never forget, because I think and maybe you will not like it if I say, but clearly 99.99% of the seeds and plant reproduction material are in another world. And this other world needs clear certification, it needs clear rules. And we wanted to clearly identify this world, which we are, let's say, speaking about today, which I consider important, interesting, and which at least my political group, and I think also others, because there was a broad majority in the European Parliament for this position, wanted not only to preserve, but to foster. So nobody wants to forbid anything here. That is not the aim of the Parliament. And we are rather grateful if actors, as we saw the last one, and congratulations, I know something about apples because I'm coming from myself from a region where we produce more or less 10% of the European apples, so I know what it is. And I personally think that we had a long debate about the Article 30. We have a Parliament's position now, and now we are in a stage of the work where we need to close the book. So we cannot restart from zero. We have a Parliament position, we have a Council position, and we need to find an agreement. And from my side, I will do everything in order to have a solution which is close as possible to the Parliament's position. So this, I'm very sorry, but I need to leave. I have another round table, and I had to be there already for half an hour. So sorry for that, but I really need to jump into another meeting now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dorfmann. So, but you will have, I saw you really heard everybody with their proposals, and I think in some cases you really have a backup for the Parliament's position by practitioners. On other points, you might perhaps see the need for flexibility, but we cannot go into details now. I remember trilogue, so I know it's a tough job. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I might... Thank you very much. Yes, I might come back to Article 30 and give the Council the floor as a possibility to value what you've heard so far and to see where you could perhaps move in the trilogue.
Thank you once more. Trying not to get into the negotiation aspects of this point, but indeed it's a very important point. And I share Mr. Dorfmann's opinion that it's also very important for the Council to find a solution on this point. And we heard a little earlier the very interesting presentation on this point. And I would say that it was mentioned that it's difficult for the member states to control. I would take it a little bit further and say that it's almost impossible to control something that they don't know that it's happening. And from the member states' position, I remember the discussions at the Council. Many member states would like the removal of Article 30. We kept it, acknowledging the importance for small farmers to be able to exchange seeds, a practice that they currently do. So we wanted to protect that. From the Council perspective, the issue here is plant health. Apart from not being able to control the practice, it's plant health. We see in many cases where there is a movement of plant material with some significant pests and diseases that can move from an area to another. We all know that these pests and diseases, they don't have borders. So it's really important to be able to control. And even if we conclude to a decision here on this article that maybe derogates from the implementation of PRM rules, there are still the plant health rules, and those need to be applied. You cannot move, for example, any material without plant passport. So basically, these were the thoughts of the Council, but I would like to repeat that having in mind the importance of this practice of farmers so that we can keep it for the future, we kept it in the text, and we are ready to negotiate regarding this issue. At the same time, that's why I'm trying to say that for the Council, it was a long way to find this final position. It wasn't with a cold heart that we took this decision. And I repeat that the issue here is the ability to control whatever we put in a regulation. We need to be able to control it, and plant health is a real issue that will not go away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's that's part of other legislation. I think that the difficulty, let's say the tension between, on the one hand, people saying, don't make it too complicated. Let us do our work. Don't put us into boxes which don't fit to the work which we want to do, and that is protect, develop diversity in the food system itself. And the wish of the institutions to control to a maximum, be it plant health, be it market access, be it, exchange and so on. So I would like to have a word from Magdalena on how far do you think you got, or we got, the message across of the main things? From the reaction you've heard from this panel so far, do you think your main message is understood, or would you like to add something, be it on one article or be it on your main message again, which was say, let us do our work, don't interfere too much, diminish, and that was Hans-Joachim also saying, reduce bureaucracy. I mean, we are in a phase where simplification and reduction of bureaucracy was the key word, the buzzword even, with relation to the Green Deal, with relation to so many regulations. It's here, we are back in a regulation which seems to be quite strict on some points. What would be your comment at this point?
My comment would be again, I would be again asking for freedom of choice. Let farmers, let gardeners choose what they want. And maybe I can give you like a small experiment, all of you on your way home. Maybe you could ask in the next days like 3 or 5 people who know nothing of the plant or of the PRM regulation. And you could ask them, do they think that it should be allowed for farmers to pass on, to sell their seeds that they have cultivated? And I would be very curious to hear if any of the people who know nothing of this legislation would say, no, I think farmers should not be allowed to do that. Same if you asked people, if small seed producers, if we should have so much control, so much regulation that we push them out of the market, that they cannot survive, 13% will give up if the regulation comes like it is now. If you ask people out there, no one will understand that. I know we are in our policy discussions, but people out there will not understand that. They will ask for freedom of choice for farmers, for gardeners. They will ask for diversity. They will ask for rules that work for the people on the ground. And I think that's what we need, rules that work for practitioners. We have lost a lot of the genetic diversity. So what we need now is rules that support it rather than hinder it. We need a freedom of space to work. And as I said, we can reach a win-win next to each other. Of course, there's the industrial seed market, and it should be there. And farmers who want to buy seeds from an industrial offer, they will do that. But let's not belittle farmers. They can choose for themselves what kind of material they want. If they want material from a seed organization to try it out in field trials, to do on-farm breeding with it, then let them go for it. If they want to work with conservation varieties, newly bred conservation varieties, which are more adaptable, which work for their regions, then let them do that. Big seed companies are not breeding for local solutions. They are breeding for big markets. So for these local solutions, we need to let the players work. We need to let diversity be there. I think it would be very, very wrong to forbid any of that. We need to make space for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Magdalena. I was impressed, many times we heard that there are so many people, a great diversity of people who are really concerned about the diversity in farming and gardens. Nano and entrepreneurs, small farms and so on. They work together with professional breeders. We heard it from Edwin, we heard it from the breeders. So it doesn't seem that there is a contradiction between those who are professional and do things right and those who are unprofessional and do things wrong. So the risk is not, that my impression, between the professionals and the non-professionals. I think the message was let them cooperate, let them work together in order to not only preserve but develop the diversity. That was an important aspect too. Martin, you wanted to come in with the perspective of a shadow rapporteur.
Ja, ich mache es wieder auf Deutsch. Also ich finde, wo hier der Konflikt ist, ist ja relativ klar geworden. Barnier hat es ja ganz toll gesagt, wir haben es hier mit ganz vielen Ehrenamtlichen zu tun, die nicht professionell züchten, die zum Erhalt alter Sorten beitragen. Und ich finde es sehr beeindruckend, was man da an Sorten zusammenträgt, zum Beispiel im Apfel- oder im Birnenanbau, die uns ja heute fehlen. Ich wollte ja gerne was zum Dorfmann sagen. Das Problem von Südtirol ist ja, 10% der Äpfel kommen aus Südtirol, aber nur insgesamt von 3 Sorten, ja, die miteinander gekreuzt sind. Wir brauchen diese Vielfalt. Und wenn wir jetzt gerade denen, die es ja ehrenamtlich machen, ohne großartig was dafür zu bekommen, neue bürokratische Hürden aufbauen, dann werden die sagen, warum soll ich das eigentlich noch machen? Und deshalb genau brauchen wir diese Vielfalt. Und was dann gesagt wird, ja, wir haben es ja in Genbanken und das ist ja auch gut. Nee, wir müssen, das ist ja auch in der ersten Runde gesagt worden, wir müssen diese Sorten ja auch wieder auf den Acker bringen. Wir müssen ja auch weiter mit denen arbeiten können. Wir brauchen ja auch diese Mengen, die nicht nur irgendwo im Bunker liegen, sondern wir müssen ja damit auch weiterhin arbeiten können. Auch das machen viele ehrenamtlich. Und wir hatten, Hannes weiß es noch, wir hatten ja bei der Organic Regulation haben wir ja lange auch dafür gekämpft, dass wir heterogenes Material zulassen, weil gerade der Biosektor ist ja auf Vielfalt angewiesen. Und ich weiß, wie lange die Kommission dagegen gesträubt hat. Um Gottes Willen, heterogenes Material, da ist ja keine Kontrolle. Also die Angst sozusagen, dass man etwas aus der Kontrolle verliert, ist angesichts der Prioritäten, die wir jetzt setzen müssen, überzogen. Das sage ich hier auch sehr deutlich. Die Kommission muss zwar viel wissen, aber nicht alles. Wir müssen auch ganz klar sagen, lass den Sektor mal machen. Das ist eben auch sehr deutlich gemacht. Lass ihn mal machen. Und die Angst sozusagen, dass jetzt neue Pest übers Land kommt, weil bestimmte Sorten eingebracht werden, die tatsächlich Risiken mit sich bringen, die ist verschwindend gering. Wo die Landwirtschaft mit zu kämpfen hat, sind halt durch den Klimawandel, dass immer mehr Insekten sozusagen ein Problem darstellen. Aber ich habe noch nicht gehört oder nicht viel gehört, dass tatsächlich durch alte Sorten Probleme entstehen. Die Probleme entstehen mit den neuen Sorten. Und ich finde, das müssen wir hier auch verteidigen. Das Recht der Bauern ist ein uraltes Recht, zu tauschen, ihre Sorten weiterzuentwickeln. Das darf niemals ausgehebelt werden. Das ist ein traditionelles Recht der europäischen Bauern und das sollten wir nicht aufgeben. Wir sehen, was anderswo passiert in den USA, wenn wir diese Rechte aufgeben. Und mein Kollege Clergeau hat das sehr deutlich gesagt. Wir erleben ja gerade mit der neuen NGT-Regulation, da geht es um Patente, da geht es sozusagen um Monopole und das wollen wir verhindern. Und deshalb sind wir, glaube ich, im Parlament sehr eindrücklich auf dem Weg, unsere Position zu verteidigen. Ich hoffe, der Rat ist am Ende auch flexibel. Aber zu sagen, wir müssen alles unter Kontrolle haben und machen neue bürokratische Auflagen, ist kontraproduktiv für den ganzen Sektor. Wir haben jetzt im Moment ein Omnibusverfahren. Weiß nicht, was Omnibus ist? Nein. Das sind die Verfahren, wo entbürokratisiert werden soll. Ein Verfahren nach dem anderen. Und hier tun wir genau das Gegenteil. Und deshalb sind wir gut beraten, wenn wir jetzt auch in dieser Verordnung Maßstäbe setzen für Vielfalt, für das Recht der Züchter, für das Recht der Bauern und für diejenigen, die ihr Engagement ehrenamtlich in dem Bereich weiterführen wollen.
Thank you, Martin. To be fair, I think it will be difficult now for the Commission and for the Council to react on this proposal. Or would you like? Yeah, yes, please.
Yes, please. Of course, I mean, I heard big, I would say also, I would use the word accusations. First of all, I can assess that 13% of the small businesses will go out if the regulation comes into force. Mr. Häusling said that the Commission was so totally against the heterogeneous material. I mean, it's not so extreme. I mean, you were there, I was not there, but I have studied the history. There are records of everything. So first of all, for the record at least, also the current legislation includes a number of derogations. We have today rules for conservation varieties. We have rules for amateur users. A big improvement, and I know your personal contribution, was the organic heterogeneous material, but the Commission and the Member States worked hard because behind the notion of heterogeneous material was the experiment on population varieties. Commission and the Member States worked 7 years and invested a lot in that experiment. And it's not fair to say that we were against this idea. So we have done the underlying work, the competent authorities, the examination offices invested years of work in that preparation to allow for the text of heterogeneous material to come into force. And it would have been part of the old regulation, but the old regulation did not succeed, so it was put in the organic regulation, just for setting the record. Now, Arkenoa made a study that according to, if the text is adopted as it is, 13% of microenterprises will go out. We have discussed this also one-to-one. We have discussed with all the stakeholders. I invite to read the proposal more calmly. For example, what is required for Article 29 is just to notify the activity, nothing else. So I don't know why we are against transparency. We are, as I said, we are trying to give a clear place in the framework to show where everybody belongs with the proposal. One could say, even we are accused that we give disproportionate space with 5 articles to the derogations. But anyway, the proposal gives a specific place, a very broad derogations. Now, as I said, again, the exercise is exactly to agree what is exactly needed and proportionate. What we are concerned in this exercise is, of course, to facilitate and help these activities further thrive, because they exist also under the current directives. And if you compare what is written in the proposal and what is written in the current directives, we have made great openings. We're not putting more stricter rules in comparison to what we have under the directives. We have made very big openings in the proposal. But in any way, we're happy to discuss. I mean, we are in the situation where through the Parliament amendments, we have even more openings to discuss. So this will influence the trilogues and the final result. Our concern always is to have something that is a clear legal text and implementable without, of course, creating any obstacle to any activities, because that was also part of the preoccupations in writing the proposal. Everybody, all systems, all activities have their place in the legislation, so all actors will have access to what they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I suppose we could go more into details, but that was a fair reply. Derogations, of course, are, going out of a scope which is already existing, right? And I think also Martin would concede that the Commission has made great progress in this direction, which now is coming into discussion in the trilogue. I think we don't have the time to go further into details, but I would like to give the floor to Magdalena once again, and also to the Council, to Mr. Gabriel, to give a concluding work, because we also want to have this fabulous banquet that was proposed to share, and we can have further informal discussions, of course, between us at that moment. Would you like to give the word first to Mr. Gabriel? Yes, please.
Thank you for the floor once more. I mean, I don't know if I have anything to add on these things that we've heard so far. What I would take from this event as a conclusion is that the 3 institutions are ready to negotiate in a way that we can have the best result for all actors. And I mean, from the Council's perspective, repeating what I said earlier when we were talking about seed exchange, I think that we have shown that we are ready to support any kind of solution in a way that we will be able to succeed in finding the best possible result.
Thank you very much. Magdalena?
I just want to react shortly to small seed producers being pushed outside the market. Of course, there's Article 29, but Article 29 is for seed organizations. So what we are talking about here is not conservation organizations, but really small enterprises like the one Hans-Joachim presented here and like the ones we have many all over Europe. On average, they produce and sell more than 150 different varieties per year. So we really need all the small producers. And for them, there would be new rules for professional operators now. So I'm speaking of Article 41, Article 42 here, and a lot of new burden for them. So we need to find solutions how to simplify them, to take all this burden from Article 41 and 42 away from small producers so they can produce resilience, they can produce our food also in the future. And I think we as stakeholders, so many of us are here today because we do constructively, we are constructively involved in these negotiations, and we want to constructively add to this to these discussions because the work on the ground is really important for us. So we'll continue to do that, but I also have to say we will not hesitate to campaign against it and to really let public know if we see that things are going in a really wrong direction, because for us it's clear that we will stand up for diversity in the fields, on the ground, in the gardens and in our plates. So we need to fight for that. There are many people out there who care for that. And I really hope for all decision makers that they can come together to find solutions for the people working on that on the ground, because that's what we need.
I think I cannot, I don't want to conclude any further. I think it was a good moment to exchange on legislative work being done between the three institutions, and which is going on the next months. It seems there's optimism between the three institutions that they come to good conclusions, even during the Cyprus presidency. I remember when I was involved in the organic file, it was 6 presidencies that needed to come to a conclusion. So that was 3 years of negotiations. And I also remember that the technical discussions at the beginning were quite important, because you set also the frame in which you want to move or don't want to move. Now you have still some input from this meeting where you could reconsider the articles that have been mentioned, but especially I think the spirit of collaboration, because I think this has really changed. My first experience was in 1989, when I met a Commission representative responding on the first resolution that the European Parliament ever did on the loss of genetic diversity. And at that moment, the Parliament said, we need to include farmers into the question of how to best conserve and best develop seeds. And at that time, and I'm just saying talking of the past, the reaction of the person from the Commission was, farmers have no clue. They need scientists. And this is where breeding happens. So I think since then to now, it's a different world. There is a lot of understanding. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of exchange. And what we need, of course, is on the side of those engaged, be it, on farms, be it in breeding, or being, involved in educational work, which is included. That's not paid on the market. I said that several people said that, sensitizing people for the diversity, sensitizing people to see the connection between the way farming is done, gardening is done, and the challenges on the other side that are growing with climate change and loss of biodiversity. That is important. I think I cannot continue with, because I would be very broad, because I've been involved in this for a very long time. But now I think, Magdalena, you should perhaps introduce, no, you would, Paul, exactly. Paul, would you introduce our most important part of this gathering to all of us?
All right, I'm going to speak like this, so also the people online will hear us. Thank you all for coming. We have heard, I think, a lot of very passionate people from all the institutions and people on the fields. Thanks for all the contributions for today, taking your time during very busy times. Now I think we can all come together to something that we all agree on, which is eating a little bit. So I will introduce real quick our chef who prepared some things, and also a baker who they quickly talk about their philosophy. But you don't have to sit anymore. You can come here, take yourself. We will prepare something, take some drinks, and let's talk a little bit with each other. So thank you all for coming.
And thank you, Hannes, for the moderation.
Huh? Yeah. Please take your plates that are on the chairs, and also your drinks, and come grab everything you want. There's also seats. You can take it with you if you have a garden or need some seats. All right. Okay, so needs to be convinced. Yeah. Okay. Or we just use, let's just use the micro. We don't different. Ja, können wir auch einfach so. Okay. Alright. Alright, come to us. Alright. So this is this is our baker, right? Ja, ich hab's ja schon gedacht. Das muss auch hier